What is the basic concept here is the data are stored in a database. Database is nothing but the storing of information in the form of a table. The meaning of the word constraints is nothing but the limitations or restrictions. What is the meaning of instance? The state of the database at that particular time. That is nothing but the database instance. Dear students, welcome to Computer Science classes. I am Ravi Kumar KR, lecturer in Computer Science, Vidhyaashram PU College, Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. Students, let us start our discussion with the chapter Database Concepts. So, in this session, let us discuss about DBMS or Database Management System. Let us start with the introduction to Database Management System. So here in our previous session, we have learned about the file system. So what is a file system? It is one method of storing data in a computer. So another method of storing data in a computer with the help of database or database management system. So what is it exactly? So we say database management system, or in short, we say DBMS. DBMS stands for Database Management System, or is a software that can be used to create and manage databases. So, what is a database management system? Database management system is a software used to work with the database. So, what is a database then? So, database is nothing but the collection of data or storing of data in a database in the form of a table. So, that forms a database. So, here your database consists of n number of rows and m number of columns. So, here data are stored in a table or in the form of a table that is called database. So, here database management system is a software to work with database. And here DBMS lets user to create a database, store, manage and update and modify and retrieve data from the database by users or application program. So this is the function of DBMS or database management system. So what is database management system? As we have learned, it is a software to work with database. And what are the operations can be performed with respect to database? Or here one is we can create a database. So the first step is, suppose if you want to store the data in computer in the form of database, the first step is we have to create database. That is one operation, and we can store the data in a database and we can manage the data. And not only that, we can update or modify the data and retrieve the data from the databases and by the users or by application program. So what is the basic concept here is the data are stored in a database. Database is nothing but the storing of information in the form of a table. So here, database management system is a software is used to work with the database, and we can do the different operations what you have mentioned in this point here. An example for open source and commercial DBMS include MySQL, Oracle, PostgreSQL, SQL Server, and it is MS Access and MongoDB. See, these are all different DBMS software to work with database. In the next slide, and what are the features of database management system? So here, the database system, here it hides certain details about how data are actually stored and maintained. Thus, it provides users with abstract view of the data. So here, as far the user is concerned, they are not aware of how the data are stored actually in the database or how the data are maintained in a database. And actually, the users, they are provided with the abstract view of the data. You know what is abstraction? So here, abstract view is nothing but the important part of the database. And here, According to this, the users are not aware of how the data are stored and managed in database. And the DBMS serves as an interface between, it is an interface between the database and the end users or application programs. Retrieving data from the database through a special type of commands is called querying the database. So here with this point we can understand that. So here DBMS is an interface. It is interface between the database and the user. So here the data are stored in a database, and those data the user can access those data through DBMS. It is a software. So it is an interface between the user and the database. And here retrieving data from a database through special type of commands is called querying the database. Now, as we have told here that it is possible for to retrieve the data or access the data. How it is possible? Here we are using the word querying. So here we are using the commands. The commands are referred as querying in database management system. In addition, users can modify the structure of the database itself through a database. And there is one more option to change the structure of the database. What is the meaning of structure of the database? Suppose you are creating a database with 4 rows and 5 columns, and that is nothing but your database. For example, your database, you are creating a database. In this example, here there are 1, 2, 3. There are 3 rows, and here 1, 2, 3. There are columns. See, this is what we can say structure of the database, and with the help of this, we can modify the structure, or we can say we can add one more column into it. That is nothing but we can change the structure of the database. That is additional feature the users are given with this additional feature, that is we can modify the structure of the database. In the next slide, let us see some of the examples where we are using database in our day-to-day life. So this is real-time application or examples in banking. Now in banking sector, now we know that now everywhere we are using is a computerized banking system. So there the customer information, account details, loan details, transaction details are stored in the computer in the form of database. So this is an example for database, application of database, or what are the fields we can make use of database in our day-to-day work. So here then crop loan. This is a Kisan credit card data. This is about the farmers and their crop, everything. All the data are stored in a computer in the form of database. This is another example. Next, inventory management. So what is the meaning of inventory management? With respect to manufacturing units or with respect to industries, it is possible to store product details, customer information, order details, delivery data, etc. And again, organization, resource management. So here what is? This is nothing but HR, Human Resource Department, HRD. So there we are using that to store employee records or employee details, salary and other information about the employees. Next, online shopping. Online shopping. Here item description, login details and preferences detail, etc. are stored in the computer by using a database. See, these are all the different applications of database and database management system. In the next slide, we will see different the terms or key terms what we are using in DBMS or database. So here you can see this is a table. So this we can say it is a database, because database is nothing but the collection of data, different forms of data in the form of a table. So this is table, you can say it is a database. In the database we have, you can see that there are 4 rows and there are really 4 columns. So this is ID is one column, name, age and course or different columns of a database or a table. And in this example, we have 4 rows. So here, this rows, this one particular row is called records or tuples. See, another name of rows in technically with respect to database, here we say tuples or records are nothing but rows in a table. In this example, there are 4 rows, there are 4 records or 4 tuples. Next, look at this ID, name, age, and course. All these are different columns, and here this is name of the column, course, age, everything, and all the columns are called as fields or attributes. The another name is fields or attribute, which refer to columns in a table. And here the values inside each and every columns are nothing but column values or data items. See here, data items are nothing but the values we are stored in a database. And here we can see one more is called a primary key. So what is a primary key? Primary key is nothing but the ID. This column is called a primary key, is nothing but, see, this is the one primary key. We are using it to identify the records or to avoid duplication of records in a table or in a database. So this is primary key. See, these are all different terms we are using with respect to database. They are primary key, columns are called as fields or attributes, and rows are referred as tuples and records. And this is a table. And here the values are called, inside this are called values or column values or data items. In the next slide, we will see next definition is what is database schema. Database schema is the design of database, and it is the skeleton of the database that represent the structure, nothing but table names and their fields or columns. The type of data each column can hold, constraints on the data to be stored if any, and the relationship among the tables. See, what is a schema? Database schema is nothing but it is nothing but a skeleton, and it represents structure of the table or structure of the database. Now, I have told you in the previous example about structure of the table. So here we can decide how many columns and how many rows. It forms a structure of the database. So if I say schema is nothing but we are referring the structure of the database, nothing but design of the database. And it also represents the type of data each column can hold. Means we have seen the number of columns. So what type of data we are going to store in the particular column is also comes under the database schema. And also we can have constraints. Constraints means restrictions. We can have restrictions on each and every column in a table, that is constraints, and also the relationship among the tables. So it is possible to have more than one tables in a database, and we can connect more than one tables, that is nothing but relationship. See, all these comes under database schema. In general, database schema is nothing but design of the database. It refers to structure of the database, and also it includes the type of data we are going to store in a database, and also constraints are nothing but restrictions on each and every column in a table, and also to connect or relate more than one table in a database. See, this is database schema, and it is also called as visual or logical architecture, as it tells us how the data are organized in a database. So another definition, it is also referred as a logical architecture of the database. In the next slide, next concept is what is database constraints. The meaning of the word constraints is nothing but the limitations or restrictions. So what is database constraints? Sometimes we put certain conditions or restrictions or limitations on type of data that can be inserted in one or more columns of the table. This is done by specifying one or more constraints on that column while creating the table itself. So it is possible to have, or we can have a restriction on entering data into a database with respect to number of columns to a particular column. For example, in the previous example, if you take this example here, one column is age here. So it is possible to have a restriction saying that the particular column age must have only integer value. See, this is one restriction. We can restrict the particular column or the data we are going to enter into particular columns. That is nothing but constraints. So database constraints are nothing but limitations we can put on every column with respect to the data that has to be stored in a database. That is nothing but database constraints, and it can be done even while creating the table itself. While creating the table, it is possible to have restrictions or constraints on more than one columns or one column itself. That is database constraints. Next one is metadata or data dictionary. Next definition is metadata. So what is metadata? So the database schema along with various constraints on the data is stored by DBMS in a database, catalog or dictionary. This is called as metadata. So what is the metadata? Here we know that the database schema, that is the structure of the table or structure of the database, and along with the constraints, what you have seen in our previous slide, along with all the data are stored by a DBMS, which is a software in particular location, that is called as a catalog or dictionary. Another name is metadata. And another definition, metadata is data about the data. That is a simple definition. So in general, what is metadata or data dictionary? When the database schema along with the restrictions, along with the values, everything are stored in a particular dictionary, that is referred as metadata or data dictionary. Next one is database instance. Database instance. So here we can define database structure or schema. State of the database is an instance. See, what is the meaning of instance? The state of the database at that particular time. That is nothing but the database instance. The database at any given time is database instance. Thus, the state of the database can change, and thus a database schema can have many instances at different time. So what is a database instance? As per the definition, the state of a particular database at that time is called as database instance. So it is possible to have in a one database, you can have more than one tables. So that is nothing but relational database management system. So here, for example, if I have a student data, suppose if I have a student database or student database. So with the help of this student database, I can have one more database of students attendance data. Attendance data. So with the help of this database, I have created one more table or one more database, that is attendance data. This is nothing but instance of the database. Means it is the table or the database at that particular time is referred as database instance. So it is possible to have more than one instance of a database with respective problem or respective project. So this is database instance. Next definition is query. query, we have learned in the first slide itself, it is possible to work with the database by using a commands or nothing but query. The commands are referred as query with respect to database. So what is query? It is a request to database for obtaining information in a desired way. See, what is a query? It is nothing but a request. So we know what is a database, and the user can send a request to the database for to get the desired result or to obtain the result. That is nothing but query. It is a request in the form of request is called as query in database, and it can be made to get data from one table or from combination of tables. So as I told you in the previous slide, so it is possible to have more than one tables with respect to database. They are referred as relational database management system. So here relation is nothing but table. So here it is possible to get the information or the result from different more than one table by using query. And to retrieve or manipulate the data, the user needs to write query using query language. Now here suppose user wants to retrieve the data, means access the data, and manipulate means you can do many operations on data. Users need to write a query, means he has to send a request. Query is nothing but to send a request to the database by using a query language. So query is nothing but the commands we are referred here as query. So here this query has to be written in a particular language that is called query language. In the next slide, what is data manipulation? So what is data manipulation? Here the modifications of database consists of three operations, that is insertion, deletion or update. Any of the above operations performed on database is referred as data manipulation. So these are nothing but operations on database, or modifications are nothing but we can insert a particular record into a database, or we can delete the number of records in a database, or we can update, or we can modify the data in a database. All these three together we referred as data manipulation. Nothing but different operations on database referred as data manipulation. Next one is database engine. So what is database engine? So here it is underlying component or sets of program. So you might have heard about database engine, or you might be familiar with search engine. What is a search engine? With respect to website or web server or web browser, whenever you are looking for particular information through website or through a Google, so it is nothing but there we are using search engine. So search engine is going to help you to retrieve the data from particular web server. Similarly, we say database engine. So database engine is nothing but it is a component or a program which are working with respect to database to retrieve the data from the database. In the next slide, next one is relational data model. So what is the meaning of relational database or relational data model? So here a data model, it describes the structure of the database, including how data are defined and represented, relationship among the data and the constraint. See, this is nothing but the database model. If I say database model is going to describe the structure of the database along with the data which are stored and how the data are stored and what type of data we are going to store it, and along with the constraints, it forms a database model. Actually, we are having different types of database models. They are object-oriented data model, entity relationship data model, document model, hierarchical data model, and relational data model. These are all different models available to work with database. Next one is, what is relational data model or relational database management system, or we say RDBMS. So here in relational model, the tables are called as relations. So what we have seen in the database is nothing but it is in the form of table. So each table in a relational database is referred as relation, and that relation store data for different columns. Each table can have multiple columns where each column name should be unique. See, this is the definition of relational database model. So here it is nothing but every table is referred as relations, and it is possible to store different data on different number of columns. You can have n number of columns, but each column must be unique. Means each column name must be unique, so it should not be repeated or duplicated. That is relational data model. So a table consists of collection of relationships. It is important to note that here the relations in a database are not independent tables but are associated with each other. So here if I say relational database, here you know what is a relation. Tables are referred as relations. So it is possible to have more than one table. It depends on your application. So all the tables are linked or connected through relational database model. So this table consists of collection of relationship. So how do we connect more than one table? That is the meaning of relational database management system. And here it is not independent table but associated with each other. So this is relational data model. In the next slide, we will see the examples here. Suppose if I say this is one student table. Now this is one, we can say it is one relation. So this is relation. In this table, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. This is, there are 4 columns. This is roll number, student roll number, student name, student date of birth, and guardian ID. And we can have one more table. This is guardian table, which contains the information of guardians. For example, guardian ID and guardian name and guardian phone number and his address. This is one more table, and attendance table. And here it is possible to have students' attendance like this. So this is roll number 1, date, attendance, and status attendance. See, this is one more table. So here with respect to relational database management system, so here this is one relation, second relation, and third relation. There are 3 relations or 3 tables which have been created with only one database. So this is an example of relational database. And in the next slide, we will see how we are going to connect all the 3 tables. This is the concept of relational database. So in the previous example, we have seen 3 independent tables or relations. All these are connected each other through this relational data model. So in the table, guardian table, guardian ID is there here in this one, and this is connected to roll number of a student. This is attendance table. See, this is, we are relating or we are connecting 3 different tables to form a relational database management system or relational data model. In the next slide, we will see what are keys in a relational database. The tuples within a relation must be distinct. The tuples is nothing but the records. The records must be distinct with respect to database is concerned or table is concerned. It means that no 2 tuples in a database should have same value for all the attributes. Here attributes is nothing but number of columns. So according to this database concept here, 2 records cannot have same attribute value or value cannot be duplicated. That is, there should be at least one attribute in which data are distinct. That is nothing but unique and not null. See here, in a table, we can have number of columns, and the values in number of columns should be unique, means it cannot be repeated or it cannot be duplicated. And not only that, it should not be even, not even null. See, this is nothing but this is one condition. So here in a table, we can have number of columns and number of attributes, but at the same time, we can have number of records, nothing but tuples. But no two tuples, means no two records cannot have the same value, or no two records can have the same value at least by one attribute or one column, or it is, or even is not even null. This is one criteria. These restrictions are specified at the time of defining the database through different types of keys as given in the next slide. See, this is nothing but keys. See, what are the keys here? The keys are nothing but they are used to provide restriction to the database, as we have seen in the previous slide about database constraints. Constraints are nothing but the restrictions or limitations. The restrictions and limitations can be applied to a database with respect to number of columns with the help of keys. That is the importance of keys in a database. So with the help of database, it is possible to have specified the restrictions at the time of defining the database itself. That is keys in database management system or relational database model. In the next slide, we will see the different types of keys we can use in our database. So here we can see this is a table. We can make out that this is a table. Here there are 3 rows, or we can say 3 tuples or 3 records. And these are number of columns 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are called as attributes or columns. According to this condition here, no two records can have the same value, but at least it should be different with one of the value in particular column. So in that can be implemented by using keys in a relational database. So according to this, by looking at this example, we can see here one is called primary key, and this is we are applying primary key to the student ID. In generally, the student identification or ID is unique, so it is different for all the students in a school or in a college. So this is unique ID or unique number. It is referred as primary key, and that is primary key. And this is all these are this email ID as a roll number and ID. All these together is called as candidate key. It is called as candidate key. The meaning is that this primary key is unique, and also even the roll number of a student, it is unique, and the name can be same. Roll number will be different, but names can be same, and even last name, and all these can be same, but the roll numbers are different as well as student IDs are different. And again, the email ID of all the students cannot be the same or the different. All these together forms a candidate key. That is the definition of candidate key. And here, next one is alternate key. What is alternate key here? See, this is, you know that this column is unique, student ID is unique, roll number is unique, as well as email is unique, cannot be same for all the students. So these two are called as alternate key. I mean, other than this, it is also possible to have more unique columns or unique values. They are referred as alternate key. These are all different types of keys: primary key, candidate key, alternate key, and foreign key, etc. In the next slide, we will see the definition of different types of keys. Candidate key. A relation can have one or more attributes that takes distinct values. As we have seen in the previous slide, it can have more than one value with a distinct value. Email is different, unique, roll number as well as student ID. So this together forms a candidate key. Here, any of these attributes can be used to uniquely identify the record. Tuples are nothing but record in a relation. Such attributes are called as candidate key. Each of them are candidates of for the primary key. In other words, we can say that candidate key is nothing but the combination of two or more columns or where the values are unique or different. That is referred as candidate key. In the next slide, what is primary key? Out of one or more candidate keys, the attribute chosen by the database designer to uniquely identify the tuples in a relation is called the primary key of that relation. Here, if you look at the example here, if you look at this, student ID is unique and roll number is unique. Even email ID is unique or different from student to student. But the designer, the user, he has taken this student ID as a primary key. It is referred as the primary key. So here, as it depends on the user can choose either student ID or roll number or even email ID as a unique key or primary key. But in this example, the user has taken this student ID as the primary key. So any of them which has been selected by the user are referred as primary key. Next one is composite primary key. Here, if no single attribute in the relation is able to uniquely distinguish the tuples, then more than one attribute are taken together as a primary key. Such primary key consisting of more than one attribute is called composite key. As suppose if you are not possible to identify or records or tuples in a database uniquely, then we can make use of more than one column to identify a particular record in a database. In that case, in such situation, more than one keys are referred as composite primary key, or more than one attributes or columns with unique values together called as composite primary key. In the next slide, foreign key. What is foreign key? A foreign key is used to represent the relationship between two relations. A foreign key is an attribute whose value is derived from the primary key of another relation. So what is foreign key here? It is nothing but to represent the relationship between the two tables. Suppose you are having more than one table in your database, then how do we connect those two tables? See, that is possible with the help of foreign key. Foreign key is nothing but the primary key of one table is the foreign key of another table. That is how we can differentiate primary key and foreign key. And here primary key, as all of you know that, we are using primary key to identify the individual record in a particular database. Suppose if we have one more table with the same values of primary key, then the primary key of another table or second table is referred as foreign key of the particular table. That is the difference between primary key and foreign key. Dear students, so far in this session, we have discussed about the database, basic definition, and different technical terms or definition of different technical terms along with examples. Let us continue our discussion in my next class. Thank you very much.